to the StayOnTheCourt.com podcast, the show that helps aging basketball players stay on the court and continue playing basketball or the sport that they love. We talk injuries, rehab, coaching youth sports, pickup game mishaps, and oh yeah, that guy in your court that wants to fight everybody. Our motto is, we don't stop playing because we grow old because we stop playing.
Let's not forget their youth players and let them be kids as long as they can. And here I am, a 3-year coach and coaching grade school, and here now I have to coach freshmen.
Welcome to the StayOnTheCourt.com podcast. This is your host, Troy Wallace, broadcasting from the beautiful studios in downtown Omaha, Nebraska. Number one, I just want to say I appreciate you being here. Number two, we've got a great guest today. His name is Bill Flitter. He is the host of the Coaching Youth Hoops podcast. He also does a lot of youth instruction at his website, coachingyouthhoops.com. He is also the founder of Level Up Basketball, which is a thriving basketball training program in the Bay Area. If you head over to YouTube, you will notice Coach Flitter wearing his St. Mary's College. This is California St. Mary's, yes, the one that produced Matthew Dellavedova. He lives in the area and is a big supporter of St. Mary's, and he had his zip up on during the podcast, so I wanted to combat that on the intro with my Creighton University gear, acquired this spring from the bar Let It Fly here in Omaha, Nebraska. I had hoped to find some sort of interesting stats that Creighton had dominated St. Mary's through the years, but that was unfortunately not the case. They had only played 6 games over the years, and St. Mary's actually held the edge 4-2 in that series. So it was a little bit of a surprise to me. Now, I started following Coach Flitter through his Coaching Youth Hoops podcast. He does that with high school coach Steve Collins, who you can look at his stuff at teachhoops.com. He's a high school coach up in Wisconsin with a couple of state championships under his belt. I've been following Coach Flitter for about 2 years when I was researching more resources to help coach my son's youth team. This year will be 6th grade. So Bill brings a really unique perspective to the world of coaching. His background is as a successful entrepreneur. And I guess what I like is he's just like us, right? He played in high school, didn't play in college, just loved basketball. And when he started coaching his kids, he just fell in love with it. Now, he's taken it a lot further than most people with a stint as a high school coach for De La Salle up in the Bay Area. And obviously now he's doing it full-time with his program in Northern California. Now Bill oversees the largest 3v3 and 5v5 leagues for grade school through high school girls in Northern California. He has a diverse background, proven track record of success, and he's here to share all those insights. Now, here are 3 things that I think are going to be really valuable in this episode, especially if you are thinking about coaching your son or daughter's team. So, number one is his Preseason Checklist. It's a free resource. We'll have all the links in the show notes. It's just something to help you get organized, and you really don't think of all the little items that need to be checked off as you're starting your season. I took him up on the free offer, and it was really helpful in getting things organized for my season. Number two, his teaching framework to help kids learn. You've got plays you want them to learn. You may have some frameworks that you want them to learn, and he's got a system to kind of drive all of that home. Number 3, detailed practice planning. Now, I've bought, I think, 2 of his programs over the last couple of years. This is something that is at a cost, but he was good enough to give us a discount code. So if you go over to coachingyouthhoops.com and want to purchase one of his coaching plans, in my case, I did it last year for the 5th grade plan, just use the code STAY, S-T-A-Y, and I believe he's giving us a 25% discount. I listen to every one of his podcasts. I think it's great. Not everybody's coaching their kid, but if you are, it's must listen for me, and I really enjoy it. Without further ado, enjoy this episode with Bill Flitter. Bill Flitter, welcome to the StayOnTheCourt.com podcast. We certainly appreciate you being here. I will have already done, the introduction so people know a little bit about you. I'm not going to say fanboy, but I've been following your youth coaching stuff for 2 years now. So I've got, the podcast on Coaching Youth Hoops. People say when you listen to podcasts, you feel like you know the person, and hearing your voice and being on the podcast, that's how it feels to me. So I certainly do appreciate it. I wanted to get started just with a kind of high-level overview of, number one, you are one of 5 of the best voices in youth basketball coaching. And what got you into this journey in the first place?
Yeah, it started, well, first off, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate that. And, anytime I get to talk hoops with a fellow coach, that's, my passion. That's what I love. So my journey, gosh, it really started coaching my son, 3rd grade basketball. Actually, sorry, 2nd grade basketball. 2nd grade basketball, we joined this little rec league, and I just got the bug from there. I always loved basketball. I played a lot, with friends back in the day when we actually played outside and enjoyed the weather. And then, I just started coaching, and we had a lot of success early on, which was maybe a bad thing. And I couldn't stop. And then I had my daughter came along. I started coaching there, and I always talked to the local high school coach. She was one of these icons in our area, and he always did a coach's clinic, and I just befriended him. And I said, and I always met him before the season started. And this, I'm thinking grade school season, and saying, hey, what should we focus on this year? I know we're getting, we're kind of a feeder program into his program. What should we do? And we're having coffee one day, and I said, yeah, it'd be great. My dream is to coach high school. And he says, well, we have an opening. Do you want to start? It was like 2 months later.
No.
And I said on the spot, I said, yes.
We're prepared to offer you all the free coffee you want at any of our stores throughout North America and Europe. Plus, I'll take it.
Not knowing anything, not knowing what I was getting myself into, not knowing the schedule, not talking to my wife, which, oops.
That's problematic.
Yeah, that was problematic. I smoothed that over, and then I've been coaching. This is my 15th year of coaching basketball, maybe going on 16.
All right, so let me dig into that real quick. So from the time he made that offer to you and you said yes, I mean, had you been coaching for a couple of years at that point, or had you already put in 5 or 6 years? Or
yeah, I was coaching 2 or 3 years at that point. But, I think what he recognized, he saw me at all his clinics. I would bring my players to his practice so we could watch practice. We would go to the games as a team. I would call him, so he knew that I was like really interested and involved. And he saw that, that I was pretty ambitious. So I think that's what probably attracted him to bringing me on staff.
So was it like an assistant on the varsity squad? Or I know in high school they usually have freshman, sophomore, JV, varsity.
I started as a freshman head coach. And I still think about that. It's kind of funny because it's not this program. You go into the gym, they have all of their championships up on the wall. And this guy was extremely successful coach, very well-recognized program across the country, actually, because they've been ranked several times number 1 in the country. And here I am, 3-year coach and coaching grade school, and here now I have to coach freshmen, right?
Yes. Now I have to ask this: were you cheap?
You don't get paid much coaching, so yeah. Right. Small little stipend, maybe to take the wife out at the end of the season and buy her some flowers, and beg for forgiveness.
So was that in a private institution, public?
That was a private school, boys' school, all boys. It was called Dale.
Got it. So,
yeah.
I know you've mentioned on the podcast, and that's a pretty big program.
It's a big program. They're well known for football as well. They hold the streak of the longest winning record in all of football. It's over 200 games in a row, undefeated. So
that's just unfair.
Yeah, and they had a movie about them too. So that was Brad Pitt played the coach, and yeah.
De La Salle streak and tradition continue.
Our year.
So I can imagine. So I coached, and I'll call it a ultra recreational league. They gave me 8-year-olds through 12-year-olds on the same team.
Mm.
The organizer of that league was doing the right thing, just giving kids a place to play. You'd practice for 30 minutes and play the game on Saturday, so that was fine.
Yeah.
But then I wanted to step up a little bit, so we went to YMCA, and then, in our school district, they have a feeder program, kind of a formal feeder program, and they normally starts in 5th grade, but somebody decided to go a year younger and do 4th grade. So my son was going to 4th grade, and so I wanted to be involved, but I certainly didn't want to be a head coach. I said, I want to assist and help out a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm qualified to be in this program. And they said, well, we need a B team coach. It's yours.
Mm.
I'm like, oh, okay. So we get out there, the first game I'm coaching, right? And so we're now in a little more competitive league.
Yeah.
And this team throws at me a 1-3-1 trapping half-court zone defense.
Not cool, CNBC.
And I'm like, all right, like I am
In
not
4th
qualified.
grade? Oh my goodness.
Yes. I was like,
Okay.
what is this?
Yeah.
So that was my quick lesson. So going back to you, I mean, what kind of a change was that to all of a sudden going from coaching your kids to being a legit freshman high school head coach?
It was deer in the headlights, of course. I
bet.
I didn't know what I didn't know. So, I was eager to learn, and I knew that head coach was going to be there to support. And I knew because of the program's reputation, we were going to have good players. So it had less to do with training the players. It had more to do with just organizing the first year, right? Until I got to really to understand what was happening and what I just experienced, and learned a lot since then, and I would say a completely different coach from when I started, which is a good thing. I always think about that first team and thinking, oh man, if I could go back and just coach them for one more season, and how we did great. I think we only lost one game that year, but I think back about how much better I could have been with them, knowing what I know now and having the experience that I have now.
True, but right? Everybody has to take their lumps.
No, absolutely.
And the fact that you get dealt a good hand, I had a similar situation in soccer. Now this was YMCA soccer, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, something like that, and there was no coach, so I had to be the coach.
Yeah, and
I didn't even know how many kids to put on the field. Like I had never played soccer, had no idea. Yeah. And then I think we ended up losing only one game, only because it just so happened I got dealt, these super athletic kids. I just ran around and yes.
And I think in a lot of cases, so you bring up a good point, that happens all over, right? Basketball, soccer, parents have to step up. And, at that age, it doesn't matter. If you're a good person and you're willing to learn and figure it out, and you're pretty good at organization, just jump in and do it. It's changed my life, and I think, it's changed the life of my kids as well, having their dad as the coach. And it's just a great example. This a couple months ago, I received a text from a parent whose kid I coached 10 years ago. He's saying, oh, he's, going off to college, and I was cleaning his room, and I came across a letter that you wrote to him. And, the dad went on and on about how you changed his life and the impact you had, and, you believed in him, and, it's shaped who he is today. That was 10 years ago, right? And when you get something like that, it's like, that's a win, right? And that's why you coach. I mean, you don't coach for those things, but you coach to change lives. And if you get a letter or a text like that to say thanks, or even 10 years later, like he kept that letter, it was in his room. Right. So,
well, it's always nice to have that positive signal, right? It's like if you play golf,
that's right.
Most of us, we're swearing at the ball half the time.
The ball itself has its own energy, or life force, if you will. Its natural environment is in the home. So why don't you send them home?
Ball, why didn't you just go home? That's your home! Are you too good for your home? Answer me!
Then if you get that
Right.
one good hit, right? That one good hit. Or I still play, pickup basketball, and I always say, if I can just do one athletic thing today, I'll come back. Again.
That's right. Keeps
For me,
you going.
for me in coaching, it was this second year, and I had a YMCA team, and you don't pick your kids; they just whoever shows up shows up. And I was reading, and I don't think I was watching your stuff yet. I was like, I'm going to do an icebreaker, and when we do the icebreaker, I ask everybody who their favorite NBA player or team is, and we're going around, and one of the kids says, I don't know any. And I was like, oh, and I'm like, well, what are you into? Oh, I like reading. I'm like, okay, well, what do you like? Harry Potter. So this is a guy that's not into basketball at all. His parents are just maybe making him be there.
Yeah.
Now the guy, I've seen the dad. The dad's about 6'7", and this kid has the body that looks like he could probably play basketball if he wants to at some point, but had no real interest. And he was really smart, and he was the first guy to just catch on that if he passes the ball and cuts, he gets open. And he made that first layup in like the third or fourth game, and I was like, that was it. Like I was hooked.
Yeah.
I was like, for some kid that doesn't care about
That's
it,
right.
it looks like they're having fun playing, and hopefully he's still playing now. 3 years later, that was the addictive factor for me for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
So my belief is, Stay on the Court as a podcast is we're talking about pickup basketball accidents, us old guys trying to play, health, what's the best knee brace, all those things. But my belief is that a lot of us, because we love basketball and are still trying to play ourselves, is if we're having kids coming through that age to play, we're stepping up to coach or have an interest but don't know exactly what to do, where to start. So I thought this session would be really helpful for all of those folks to, number one, Coaching Youth Hoops as a podcast. I encourage everybody to go follow that on your favorite podcast player. Do you release everything to YouTube as well?
Yeah, we have a YouTube channel. The website is coachingyouthhoops.com, where they can check out everything there as well.
Right. So I want to kind of go through the anatomy of a season. So maybe it's somebody's first season or second season coaching, and they're not exactly sure what to do. And I will admit, I've absorbed in a couple of your coaching courses. And then last year, I think you released for the first time, which was very helpful, the checklist. Can't remember if you called it the startup checklist or the preseason checklist.
Yeah, preseason.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So if you go to coachingyouthhoops.com/season-checklist, it's a document that I wish I had on my first day of coaching, because it walks you through everything you need to think about during the season. It's more about drawing questions out of you. Like, how do you, what kind of coach do you want to be? What's your philosophy when it comes to an offense? What's your philosophy when it comes to defense? But we break everything down into, preseason, to tryouts, to team management, game strategy, all of those questions that you should at least have an answer to. Postseason, how to handle parents. So it literally has everything. It's really the blueprint. And it took me quite some time to think through it and create it. But I just thought in the market it was missing. And, coaches like you talking about, your first time coaching, and I don't know how. Well, with this blueprint, it's all there. And okay, now I'm going to feel at least a little bit more comfortable knowing what a season looks like from soup to nuts.
Yes. And obviously there can be some variation. Are you in a rec league, a more competitive league?
Yeah.
Some of those things. But I think what the checklist helped me understand is just like sitting down and look and say, oh, I didn't think about that.
Right. Exactly.
And,
right. Yeah.
And I don't know, everybody's league is different, but a lot of times I will have 3 practices with my actual team before the first game. And what I believe that that document helped me think about, what are the things that we need to do? And I had some kids that were new to the program, had not really played a lot. And so I had to think, I thought through of like, geez, you really need to walk through an entire game. Like what?
Yeah.
How do you handle timeouts? How do you need an inbounds play? Do you need to teach them what the tip-off is? Right.
How to line up for the tip-off, right? Yeah.
Yes.
I yesterday actually had practice with my 3rd and 4th grade team, and I'm instilling this idea of the timeout, because one of my biggest pet peeves has to be when I call a timeout and the kids walk over to the bench. So we practice that in practice, but I don't do it. Oh, we're practicing the timeout. When I'll stand at center court, blow the whistle, right? And we'll see who walks over. And I'm like, okay, this is a timeout. Like you got to hustle over. So it's kind of your one warning, right? If it happens again, then, there's a consequence to it. And then everybody is held accountable and they're like, come on, get to the, they're rushing over at that point. So you can weave in certain things into practice that are game like, and that little thing like of a timeout, and then you just relate it to a timeout. So, we just did a timeout just like in a game, right? We always related back to that. So yeah, getting into those little things of, okay, where do you take the ball? Can you cross the line when you take the ball out? Right. Yeah. At sidelines or baseline out of bounds. When, can a player call a timeout? How many fouls do I have? Right. All of those little questions we take for granted that we think the kids should know. One is when you're shooting a free throw and when can you cross even the 3-point line? When can you cross the line, the free throw line itself after you shoot? Right? All those little things. And it's in that checklist that you talked about to inform.
Yeah, because it's, again, all kids are different, and maybe there are some programs out there that have little geniuses.
Plus cosine equals 1. Sheldon.
I don't want to embarrass you, so I'm going to give you a moment to think about what you just said.
All 10 players. But for me, I had to like very tightly prescribe what happens during a timeout. Mm-hmm. And my process is if you are, and part of this is me getting old and not being able to remember anything, right? I said, I need everybody who is actually in the game to be on the bench. Mm. Yeah. When we call the timeout. If you are not, you need to be standing up behind me. Mm. Otherwise, I don't know who's in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally get that.
Things like that. And even like incorporating that took several weeks for them to understand that piece.
Definitely. And that's the other thing we have to think about as coaches too is development, and one of cognitive development, where a 3rd grader's brain is different than an 8th grader, and an 8th grader's brain is different than a high schooler, right? A high schooler's brain is different than somebody in college playing and then in the NBA, right? So we have to think where they are along that mental growth pattern and what they can comprehend. And we often skip steps. So we're teaching a 3rd grader something that they should be learning in 6th grade because of spatial recognition, right? Of course, you're going to have those outliers. That I have a 3rd grade girl who I was in awe of her ball handling. It's just off the charts, and she can break any player down her age and slightly above. She's a little undersized, but man, she's great at ball handling where everybody else isn't. But why she developed, I don't know, right? Sooner than most. But again, you got to think about where those kids are and meet them where they are, maybe slightly above, so we can push them forward. So, learning concepts is tough for a 3rd and 4th grader. Don't get frustrated, right? It might take you 3 or 4 practices to teach them how to run an offense.
Right. And most, especially if anything recreational YMCA type leagues are, it's usually once a week practice. And
yeah.
That was I think that was the hardest for me to accept, is that you have such limited time. You have to let some things go.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
Concentrate on what the key, most important things are. For me, I was big on the the 5-out offense and just basic passing and cutting to start. And now I've got a team that some of them have been together for this will be our third year, and now I feel, and they're sixth graders, I'm actually a little intimidated. I'm like, oh geez, do I know how to teach a post move? Is it appropriate for a post move? But you're right, it's like figuring out for your age level, like what is the appropriate things to be coaching. And I know with at least one of the courses that I bought from you, it was age specific. So I think last year I got the fifth grade coaching plans, which worked out pretty well for me. So I want to talk a little more about, we're talking about what to teach. And I know you have a unique learning framework. But before we do that, because I know we have to get you out at the hour, there is I call it fun. You may not. I call it the lightning round.
Okay.
So 5 questions. If you're uncomfortable with any of the questions, you can pass. I put some fake time on the fake clock. They'll be edited in later. And here we go with question number 1. Who is your all-time favorite basketball coach and why?
This is lightning round. You're going to edit this, so it's like...
Well, I always say my questions will be rapid, but your answers do not have to be rapid.
Man, I would say probably more recent is just Phil Jackson from an NBA standpoint. Reason is, he had a lot of egos that he had to deal with, and one of the best players of all time. And just to watch his courtside manner and how he approached the game with just calmness and steadiness.
You guys, you can switch on this. I'm not switching. I'm chasing. I'm not switching nothing. Look, I got my jack. Move the ball ahead of the foul.
And
yes,
now I'm hoping his public persona is the same, and it seems like it is. But I was just really drawn to that. And now I guess Steve Kerr, kind of is disciple of that as well. And so I just like watching those guys and how they approach the game.
Do you? And maybe it's a little bit based on the age of the team.
Mm-hmm.
So similarly, Greg McDermott is the coach of Creighton University.
Yeah.
I'm in Omaha. That's where I went to school. So I'm a huge Creighton Blue Jays fan. And he has a very similar demeanor, right? Like he will...
Right. Yeah, exactly.
He'll yank you out, but he will very calmly put his arm around you, have a little discussion, and then maybe you're right back in or you're back there. And it's very calculated is the wrong word, but he's done it a million times, and that calm approach works for him.
Yeah, and at the college level, I know it's rapid fire, but like I just just like all these names are coming to my head, like Jay Wright. I just like the way he was I like the systems, and he recruited to his system, and it worked. Right. And he didn't have to have necessarily always the best players, but if they followed that system. Yeah. Anyway, so that was another name that popped in my head.
All right, going to question number 2. You alluded to this a little bit.
Yeah.
But if you could go back and coach your first youth team again, what would you do differently?
I would, again, like, as I said, they were very talented. What we didn't have was that team culture. The program did. I didn't translate that well enough to the team. And that's really important that you have that team culture, even if you are a rec team practicing once a week, because it will save you a tremendous amount of time in your teaching. Because all you have to do is refer back to that culture and it boom, snaps everybody back. Okay, here we go, right? So they're over here and it brings them back to center. This is what you truly believe in.
All right. So we will go into question number 3. What basketball player that is no longer playing do you wish you would have seen play live?
Michael Jordan, without a doubt.
Down, they'll work their plays. Steal. He kept it in bounds. Here it is again. Oh! Yes! Whose game is it? It's Michael Jordan's game.
Oh.
Never seen him play live.
And who would you say is the best player you have seen play live?
Steph Curry.
Yep, been in the Bay Area, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
So now we're going to go on a total tangent.
Yes.
Were you upset at all when they moved from Oakland into San Francisco proper?
No.
Was the Bay Area, was that controversial when that happened?
We can't get into the, long discussion of what's going on in Oakland. So, the A's are leaving now, and just teams in and out pulled out of Oakland, so they got some issues going on.
Got some situations.
Yeah. So it was good for the Warriors to go. Their new facility is just unbelievable. Beautiful.
Number one, expensive real estate, right? So they're not, the funding I'm sure was there.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So no, not upset at all. I mean, it's easy to get to. So, I think that was okay with people in general. People are more upset actually when the San Francisco 49ers moved further south to Silicon Valley. That was the big uproar around here.
Because are they in like Santa Clara now?
Santa Clara, yeah.
Yeah,
which is huge. I mean, it's a big difference. People might not see that, but culturally it's different. Just completely different atmosphere.
I have not spent a whole lot of time there. I've spent a little time in the South Bay here and there for work, but no, that's what happens, right? Whoever's willing to fund the new stadium or where they think they can make the most money is. I lived in Phoenix for 12 years, and the amount of money they've spent on moving professional teams to places where nobody lives and nobody wants to go to, and now they're moving them back, like it's unbelievable.
Yeah, the Raiders.
All right, just a little humble brag here.
Yes.
I did get to see Michael Jordan play.
Oh, good for you.
At Madison Square Garden against the Knicks one time. I keep trying to look that game up on YouTube, but I've never been able to find it. All right, so I think we're on question number 4. So if you could only watch college, pro, or high school basketball, which one do you choose?
I'm going to say high school.
Yeah, any reason for that?
I think that they're still having fun, and it's not a business yet, right? And you see the diversity in the teams and the talent and the small space, the atmosphere, the kids all around watching a high school game. You have your fans, the kids in the stands really know the kids that are playing. They can really get into the game a lot more. So that's and maybe because I was a high school coach for several years too, I love the energy that surrounds that. That was a tough one. That was a tough one because, that was tough.
Yeah,
tough
I mean,
question.
Overall, I'm a college guy. Like if I'm going to follow something, and I'm ridiculous with the Creighton Blue Jays, but I'm to get to a point in Omaha, Creighton is like a professional team. So
right, that's true.
They're playing in a huge arena. There's the parking and the expensive beer and all of that. And it just gets to the point where you just get worn out. And if it's a Thursday night, do I want to drive the 15 minutes and park and do all that? Or walk down the street to the high school and see, we're fortunate that our high school plays in, the top league in Nebraska and is generally pretty good, or watch that. You're in and out in an hour and 15 minutes. I'm probably going high school too. All right, last question.
5.
Could be controversial.
Okay.
If you could correct one thing in youth basketball by waving a magic wand, what would it be?
Let's not forget their youth players. And if we could not turn that into a business of recruiting kids and going on all of these crazy tournaments, and you're in 3rd grade traveling to Nebraska from California, right? Or out east, and let them be kids as long as they can. It's not their job and they're not getting paid for it. And that's what I would change.
Yes. And, I'm sure you see it and I see it during the season. Our team plays at a slightly lower level within our leagues.
Yeah.
We're kind of like mid-tier. Man, you see some just bad behavior.
Well, yeah.
Primarily from the parents.
Well,
I think.
Yeah. I was going to say that would have been my second answer. Your parents just breathe. It's all going to be okay. right? Going to be fine. They're going to be, if you're doing your job at home, right? They're going to be good kids in the end.
Yeah, I was fortunate that, my first year coaching this more competitive league in the winter, I had one of the dads come help me coach, and he is a real coach. Like, coaches the football team. He now has 3 boys that are playing Division I football, like the real deal. And I remember him coming in the first day, when we played in this facility that has all the league games, and he's like, I forgot this smell. Like, he basically was saying, it's just the smell of people, the desperation, and getting so worked up about just the smallest things. So it's definitely a real thing.
Yeah.
All right, so I want to get back to kind of an all-encompassing thing. I know we only have about 10, 15 minutes left, but I think we can get through it. So we've got a checklist, and everybody can go over, and we'll have all the links in the podcast show notes. So you can go over to Bill's website and get the checklist for starting your season. Then obviously it's figuring out what you're going to teach them. And what I want to hit on is something that helped me last year is your basketball learning framework. Now, I did not implement it very well, but I was aware of it.
And which one, Coach, are you talking about? I came out with recently of a few, so that I'm trying to organize and
It was a kind of a layered 4-step process. So you tell them about it.
Oh, yeah. The teach, train, play, right?
Teach, train, play,
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. That is probably one of the most important frameworks, especially for youth coaches and youth kids, is, so the teach, train, play is you teach it, you, the coach, right? You demonstrate how something is done. You then walk through it with players and let them, get a few reps underneath their belt with it, and then have the kids play in small-sided games after that. So if you follow kind of that methodology, it's a gradual thing that you break anything down into small, tiny pieces, and you just drill that one small little piece that you want them to learn. And then you can start layering all of the other pieces together. But what the teach, train, play does, it just helps a coach. It's like, okay, I need to teach this. Then they need to train it, and they need to kind of get the feel of how things are flowing. And then let's play. I'll watch them play, and then I'll correct things from there. The play part is the most important thing of all of that, though, at the end of the day, because that's where the mistakes are made. And that's where growth happens. And if we don't let them play and figure it out on their own, they're going to be relying on you way too much. And then in a game situation, they're not going to know what to do. And it's not always going to be perfect, and we can't expect perfection. Again, they're not professional players, they're kids.
And those were the things that I felt like I didn't do quite as well. And I think in even some of your items, you said, if you have the opportunity to allow one of your kids to teach it.
Yes.
That even strengthens it even further.
Absolutely. I do that all the time. And I handpick that person because I know they know it, and I know they can communicate it, and I know that they can communicate it in their language. I have such a relationship now with my team that sometimes, you're talking fast as a coach, you're on the field, or on the court, and you're spitting out a bunch of stuff. And then one of my bright players will say, in a very polite way, it's not disrespectful, she'll say, "Oh, you mean this?" I'm like, "Yeah, you just said it."
Yeah, that's right.
A couple words where it took me, 2 sentences to say it. And I'm like, I love that because, we have to remember, yes, we're the adults in the room, but at the same time, we're on a team. And I don't know, that's just my way of leadership. It's not top down. I want the players to be involved. And if we get the players involved, then we have buy-in. If we have buy-in, then they're going to be a lot happier and you're going to see better results in the end. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so I know you're in the Silicon Valley area.
Yeah.
And based on some things I saw on your profile, have some background in the tech world. And I know from some of your tools that I've used, you've got some chops in that area. Here's what I want. Your next product.
Okay. Love it.
So I just want something where I can just plug in my sideline out of bounds plays.
Yep, baseline and sideline.
And I just want a simple little app where I can have the kids go in and it's got the people lined up and they can just, with their finger on the iPad, like just show everybody where everybody goes.
Yeah. So they can draw.
So I always tell them, I said, we go 1 through 5. We kind of play positionless. So, you can be any place that 1 through 5 typically. And oh boy, it's painful sometimes. We'll get to mid-season and they still don't have So I was, we go through it. Sometimes we'll go through it once practice real quick, but man, I feel like if they had that little, gamify it, right? Where they could just see the setup and then they take the finger and they move the 1 to where it's supposed to be, 2 to where it's supposed to be, 3. I just feel like that would drive it home.
Well, and we'll share this in the show notes because I'm blanking on the URL for this particular one, but I have actually, if you go to our website, coachingyoutubes.com, I can pull it up real quick. So I had the same frustration. And so I started diving into the research of how can we get kids to remember plays? And because I'd have the same where we'd go through mid-season and these are 8th graders and they're not getting it. And so I'm like, I blame, that's on me. Okay. Cause I'm the adult coach in the room. So, how do I teach them better? So I created this, checklist of things, again, of how do we get players to remember plays. And it's a PDF you can download. It's 6 chapters of material, but it does go through a lot of what I've always taught, which is, they listen to learn. I'll just read the chapters. Chapter 1 is about listening to learn, reading to reinforce. So they're reading on paper. Okay. They're seeing the play. Then now they're seeing the play and then doing the play. And then you show visuals of the diagrams. You have a dialogue, and then players teach one another. And what I started doing in practice is getting out my whiteboard after this is what we're going to do. This is how we do it. And I just show them this person goes here and this person goes here. We go do it. And then I have them teach it to each other. Okay, now you teach it. Or I'll pick someone. Hey, you teach it now. Right. And that process, and this is not a 5-minute process. This is pretty quick, right? Because again, we're breaking those drills down into their minutia, right? And that seems to help. And I started that with my 3rd graders, by the way. So there's actually a picture on this website that I'll share with me sitting around in a huddle. My 3rd graders are sitting in front of me and I'm drawing stuff out. What I've seen change was, I have the blitz attack offense. They learned it in one practice after I went through that exercise. The base level. Right.
And you know what? That's the one I downloaded last year.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I think that was the one, and that's the one where I failed miserably at the kind of like the reading piece, like giving them like something to read, which gave me the idea of the app. We don't really have a lot of set plays except for our out of bounds plays. And so that's the piece where I was like, geez, if there was just an app to reinforce that kind of reading piece of going through it. My whole thing is basketball is to keep kids off screens, so I really don't want to introduce, but I was like, that one would be worthwhile, I think.
Yeah.
I think the parents could get on board with something like that. Mm-hmm. So now we've got the start of season checklist. Yeah. We've got the document for the learning principles, and we will link all these free resources in the show notes. And then the big elephant, practice planning.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's the one
we
that
have an hour
scares
left.
probably.
Is that,
No, we don't. I mean, you don't, but right. So, but I think that's the one that probably keeps the most parents out
yes.
of coaching is because they're scared of what that is.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And it's, if you practice planning can be tough. It can be daunting if you've never done it before. It's taken me years to kind of figure out a flow. Like, you have your 4th grade, 5th grade team, and what's the progression over a season? What should they be learning? If you're first time coach, you don't know, oh, should I be teaching, like you said, post moves? Should I not be teaching those? When do I introduce that? So there's all of these questions swimming in people's heads on what to do. And then you have to look at your unique team. What are they? What are they made of? Do I have more guards? Do I have more bigs? Are they slow? Are they fast? Is it first time playing? Right. So there's all of these things and you're just like, okay, I'm just not going to do it. Right. Because it's just too much, so that's why we created the practice plans for coaches. So literally just have to print and follow along. This is every single one that they get is everything that I've done and I know that works in the progression that it works. And you brought something, I don't know if we said this earlier, but I think what's important in teaching drills. So we've broken if you think about a game, you're either in one of these stages, you're in offense, defense, transition to offense, or transition to defense. And that's how I break the practice plans down into those quadrants. And then each of those have a few set drills. Like if you come to my practice now and at the end of the year, you will see very similar drills. But the difference is the constraints. So we start off in the same way every time we have, and again, I coach girls and this seems to work with girls. We have a quick conversation. We do a huddle. We get into just stationary ball handling because then they talk and they get warmed up. And then we hit it hard from there. And we have this layup drill that involves ball handling and they have to make so many layups in so much time. But I changed that. So it's, sometimes it's 3 minutes in 50 layups. Recently I changed the type. We went from a layup to a jump shot to a 3-point shot. Same exact drill, but then I'm just changing one element of that just to mix it up a little bit.
Right. And something I added last year, and sometimes I love videos. I love watching things. I consume way too much basketball content for my own good. But it was either you or somebody was talking about, gamifying everything.
Yeah.
As much as you can. Yeah. And so I started introducing the, if we did a little small-sided game where we're keeping score, confirming it. Right. So, well, you won, but nope. Now you got to shoot the free throw.
Yeah.
If you missed the free throw, then it's back. Yes.
Yeah.
So
that wasn't me, unfortunately. I love that. But I love that concept of you just have to confirm it. Right.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
And, and really gamifying everything. And I try and do that, but boy, especially if you've got 10 kids and you're on your own.
It can be a lot, but it's a smart way to go as much as you can if you can gamify practice. Because one, that's the world that these young kids live in, is everything is kind of gamified. And if you can relate that to practice, at the end of the day, all your kids want to do, if they don't know how to play or not, they just want to play. They don't want to go through the drills. They don't want to go through, they don't want to listen to you talk. What's the number one thing? If you ask any kid going to the gym, what do you want to do today? Can we scrimmage or can we play knockout? Right?
Oh, yeah.
So, if you just give them a ball for an hour, they're just going to go play. Now, is that wrong? I always go back and forth on that. We talked off air about, the 3-on-3 league, and, my league is structured similar to what you do, which is I just let them play. There's no coaching, and they figure the game out on their own, and it's ugly and it looks sloppy. The best compliment I got was from a type A mom who came running over to me, first time in the 3-on-3 league. And she says to me, she goes, "This is awful. It's so disorganized. And, they don't know what they're doing." And I looked at her and I said, "Oh my gosh, that's the best compliment I could have received." I said, "Learning is messy." I said, "But at the end of the day, they're going to learn how to play basketball because they're figuring it out on their own. Oh, that didn't work. Oh, let me try this, right? So they're doing the things that we want them to do, and we're not telling them what to do. They're figuring it out. Does it happen on day one? No. It takes repetition, but it does happen.
And it's more difficult than you would think. And we did talk about this a little bit off air. Is I think prompted by some of your ideas and podcasts. Is in the summer I ran an open gym, and it truly was open gym. It was just we split up teams that did 3-on-3, and it was really difficult not to coach. And guess what? 100% of that was my ego of if a parent walks in the gym, not seeing like this, buttoned up type practice and people like
and
learning with the skills. Right.
Yeah.
And that was hard to get over. I did.
Yeah.
I learned to sit on my hands, but
well, if you think about it, kids just don't play anymore. They don't
No.
play. At least I know by us, we don't. We live in beautiful weather almost year round where they could be playing in the playground. Everything is so structured, and there's sports, and then there's an adult leader telling them everything to do. And what I found, especially, I call basketball practice my lab, and it's a lab for all my Coaching Youth Hoops audience, right? Where I'm trying, failing, trying again, doing something different, bringing that the podcast and the Coaching Youth Hoops, and perfecting things. And having the kids involved, they're smarter than you think they are, and they're smarter than we give them credit for. And you just have to meet them and where they're at. Now, if you ask them how to do the triangle offense, of course, but if you break that down and what you're trying to do, you break it to their terms, they're gonna figure it out. That's the best thing. Where I remember in a game recently where we faced, I forgot what the defensive set. Let's just call it it was a 4-1. Okay, so 4 across, 1 back. Never played against it, never seen it, never practiced. It's so rare to have that. And I'm right here, all calling a timeout. It's literally right here. And they score. And I'm like, okay, I'm thinking fluke, right?
Right.
Let them go down the court. They play defense, get the ball back. They set up. The defense sets up in the 4-1 again. They score again. I just go and sit down. Now, why were they able to score? Because they knew some basic principles. And they knew we have this thing called volley, or they like calling it hot potato. If you think about how hot potato is, again, especially against a 4-1. 4-1 is just sitting there. Sometimes it's a trapping 4-1, but they don't want you to drive on them. So, okay, in our tournaments, there's no shot clock, so we're literally just throwing the ball back and forth up at the top. Okay,
right.
No coach and no kid on this planet, except for me now, is going to be patient enough for us just to sit there throwing the ball back and forth. So what do you think the other coach is yelling right now? Get the ball.
Get the ball. Yeah.
Get the ball. So as soon as they come and get the ball, that's our lane to drive, and the opposite person cuts wide open for a layup. And I'm like, because they've done that against other zone defenses, they knew right away how to fight it. Now, that is a 7th and 8th grade girls team. It's not my 3rd and 4th grade team yet, but that took them 3 years to get there, like just to figure that out on their own. So like I said, they again, meet them where they're at, where their brain development is as well. And you just have to keep on keeping on and just reinforce and reinforce. So,
it finally clicked. And that's the dream, right? Is that we're trying to teach them this.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Just real basketball, right? It's hard to get kids to understand this, but I tell them, like, my goal, I want them to all make the high school varsity basketball team.
Yeah.
We're in a really competitive school district, and they're usually top 10 team in the state, and it's really hard to do that. What I always tell them, I said, I want you to be able to go to any basketball court in the country and play pickup when you're an adult, even if you don't play in high school, And when the people around you are playing with you, they come off the court and say, that guy knew how to play, right?
Yeah.
He knew the basic rules of
Yeah.
what to do, spacing, and what
Yeah.
to do after he sets the screen. And it said, that's a win. That, to me, that's a life win, because there's a lot of good things that happen on the basketball court after you're out of high school. Social connections, business connections, et cetera.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And that's I share the same vision as, I tell them, I'm not getting you ready to play if you're 5th grade, 6th grade basketball, or if you're in 7th grade. I'm getting ready. I'm preparing you for high school and high school basketball, number one, and life. Right. So we weave in a lot of life lessons as well. And I always correlate basketball and life. And, our theme this year, great example, is one more and one more shot. So if I have a drill they pick this up so quickly. So let's say I go back to this drill, 3 minutes, and we have to do 30 layups in 3 minutes. It's actually higher than that, but we'll just say 30 and 3. And then everybody yells out, one more. So they hit the 30, and then they go like, hey, one more. And then they hit the 31. And the whole idea behind that is just a little bit extra, just a little bit over the top, right? And then we really are a little bit more, because if you add that up over time, right, that little more becomes a lot, and it becomes a life habit, right? And then I said to them, okay, one more minute of dribbling, one more chore at the house you can do to help your parents, right?
Oh, I like that.
One more page of reading tonight before you go to bed for your homework, right? One more math problem before you close the book. Just one more. You get incrementally better.
No, I like that. I especially like the chores.
Right?
Kids definitely need that.
Yeah.
So, oh boy, I know we could probably go for another 2 hours talking hoops, but I know we have to get you out of here. So we've got the checklist, the basketball learning framework that people can get. You offer practice planning.
Yep.
I'll call it software, because in addition to getting the grade specific plans, there's a lot more resources in there that are just
That's right.
general basketball.
Yeah.
And when I go in there and look at my account, I see things getting added in there. So I know they're getting updated.
And more to come this season. So
the last thing is, and we can just point everybody to the resources. I know you have a resource on choosing an offense.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So again, this is one of those things that often comes up, is, well, what offense do I run for my team? And we created this tool. It uses AI to help you find the right offense to run for your team. So a bunch of inputs, and you just do the inputs, and we'll spit out the offense that we think is best for your basketball team. And we'll put that in the show notes too. It's linkable if you go to coachingyouthhoops.com, and if you go to the link up at the top, it says free resources, and within there you'll see that tool. Again, it's it's called Offensive Finder. We have a lot of coaches, in there experimenting with it, looking at it, and
oh no, I took it.
Oh, you did? Oh, good. Which one did you get? Do you remember?
Blitz Attack.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I love the Blitz Attack for youth, and that's the other thing we have. And like you said, we could talk for 2 hours, but all of the things that we've created and all these resources were stuff that I wish I had when I first started coaching. My philosophy is, we want to make it easy for the coaches on the X's and O's so they can focus on the kids. And I think that's what's missing in coaching in general, is we're so focused on all of the practice plans and what to do. And we're doing all this research, and we're going to YouTube and, watching Creighton run their inbound play. And then you're trying to take that inbound play and wondering why it doesn't work for your 5th grade team. Well, you don't have a 6'7" center who's a McDonald's All-American. That's why it doesn't work. Right. So we're just trying to make it super simple. And, our mission is to positively influence 1 million kids over the next 10 years through coaching, through basketball. And we do that by helping coaches, right? So we know if we can level up the coach's ability, they then will positively have a positive influence on that child. And bringing it full circle is, getting those letters 10 years later, right? If
Right.
my dream is that every coach that hears this, that listens to our podcast, that's on our website, if they can get a letter 10 years after they coached a child that says, "You've changed my life," that's going to change you as an individual for the rest of your life as well.
Oh, it's huge.
So
That's huge.
That's our mission.
Here's where I'm leaning this year.
Yes.
Is I don't know how it got back in my feed, but Coach Collins. So, Coach Collins, your partner on the podcast, and he coaches high school, high level basketball. But his rule of 3.
Oh yeah.
Offense, and the only reason I'm getting drawn to it is I just feel like simplify. So I'm going to have to decide now between the recommendation of the AI tool, or the Blitz Attack, or the rule of 3.
You can't go wrong, honestly, with either of them. I mean, I ran the rule of 3 for years. Basic kind of, I called it the ABC offense, just because it was so simple. And the blitz is the difference between that. The rule of 3 is basically, in simplest forms, a simplified motion offense. The problem with a motion offense in general is the kids have too many decisions to make. And if you don't have basketball players, they're not going to know what to do. The rule of 3 breaks that down for you in just teaching 3 simple things. And that's not all they can do, but it gives those kids that
some framework.
I don't know what to do next. And then it becomes ball watching. What the rule of 3 says, after you do something, this is what you do next. And there's no, there's no deviation.
I'm still a little nervous about my off-ball kids, even if I tell them what to do, knowing what to do, but I don't know. We're going to see. Last year I was just doing a basic 5 out and it was fine. And I had a kid who was tall for the age group. Not a great ball handler, but the guy he was a knockdown shooter from around the free throw line.
Okay.
And he was bigger than every kid by far. And I was like, God, this is just begging for the Princeton style offense. And I'm like, I tried it and I was like, what am I doing? Just stop. Right. This is why I'm going back to simplifying, you know? So I spent like 3 weeks of practice looking at that and it just never got anywhere. And so I, went back to the old tried and true.
Yes.
5 out.
Yeah. No, you got to keep things simple. Again, remember brain development. Yes. Where are they on that path?
Yes. Absolutely. Well, Bill, hey, I appreciate this. I know we have to get you out of here. So I think we've covered everything that, really, right, with all the resources we're going to have in the show notes. Again, start a season checklist, learning framework to kind of help your kids learn the pieces that they need to learn and help that sink in. The practice planning, if people need help on choosing an offense based on the work. And that AI tool to choose an offense was really detailed. I can't remember. It was at least, was it 10 to 15 questions? It was pretty detailed.
It's pretty detailed. Yeah. Again, trying to make your life easier as a coach. That's all we want to do, right? And so pick the right
I certainly
offense. Appreciate
you doing this. Like I said, I followed your stuff for it'd be 2 years now, and I've got some of your practice planning resources, and loved it all. I'm an avid listener. You said me and your mom, right, are the avid listeners to the podcast.
Shout out to my mom.
But I listen to every episode, so I love it. It's a great follow. Where are the best places to reach out to you if people want to get your resources, connect with you?
Yeah, go to coachingyouthhoops.com. My phone number is on there. I think even an email address that will get to me. I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter, all under Bill Flitter or B Flitter on the socials. So, feel free to reach out with questions. We also have a Facebook group. Coaching Youth Hoops Facebook group, pretty active group, lots of resources in there as well, and coaches helping one another, which I absolutely love.
Right. And I think maybe a year ago, I started emailing, honestly, not thinking I would get a response, not knowing what, if Coach Bill was just a voice on the internet. And you got back to me, and I think that's what led to me inviting you on the podcast, is just anytime I had a question, you were gracious enough to take the time to answer. So I certainly appreciate that.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it, and keep on doing what you're doing too, being that influence in the community. We need more people like you.
Well, I hope. Like I said, I've bumped up to playing pickup basketball twice a week, and I'm trying to figure out if my body will. Are you still playing?
I'm not as much. I play a lot with the kids, though.
Yeah.
Not as much as I honestly I would like to. Pretty active in other things, but I just.
At some point, I started playing on a new court where there's some younger people, and it's still everybody's probably in their 30s, maybe early 40s.
Yeah.
But it's different. Like, it's playing with them versus the regular court I play on is really recreational.
Mm-hmm.
And it's definitely different when you go and play with some of those young bucks for a while.
Yeah.
But it's good. All right, sir. Well, we'll get you out of here. Hey, again, we really appreciate you being on the show. And for the StayOnTheCourt.com community, we'll talk to you all later.
Here we go.